Yeah, basically, I think there was like a $14 million kind of hole that based on like kind of projected revenues for next year,
Mhm.
all city departments kind of had to kind of chip in to figure out, okay, how are we gonna kind of close this revenue spending gap?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Better Together. We are having our town hall with Councilman Jason Nguyen, a friend of the show. I guess I could say. How's it
Yeah.
going today, Jason?
Good. Good to see you, Nick.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. We're excited just to talk to you. There's a lot of stuff going on. I know the city or the council just put forward its strategic plan, and
Hmm.
you all are really in the thick of getting that budget ready to go. So
Yep.
tell us a bit about that budget process first before we dive into the questions.
Yeah. So yeah, we really just wrapped kind of the council briefing portions of the budget. It's been kind of two or three meetings, 4 4 hour meetings each, and we kind of walked through the big ticket line items for most of the kind of major departments. It was a bit different than my previous two budget cycles in that we didn't walk through every single department individually. To be honest, I think it's fine because even when we did walk through every department individually, we wouldn't necessarily kind of like change much. It was
Hmm.
mostly like an awareness kind of thing, and we still have all that information in kind of our briefing materials, but we didn't have to maybe spend as much time kind of meeting on it, which is nice as yeah, everybody's kind of short on time, and
Sure.
this not we're not paid like a full-time full-time council member, so yeah,
So how
but
much
yeah,
how much
go
is
ahead.
the budget?
It was I think 317, like something in the low teens, I
Okay.
think. So a little bit smaller than the 2025 budget, mostly because like the rec center, I think, and some of the Persigo work that was done this year. It's like those projects are continuing, but they're maybe smaller
Okay.
smaller budget amounts next year.
So was it less revenue that the city has brought in this year?
No, I think that is something we're planning for in the next year for sure. But I think most of like that year to year difference was like those bonded projects around like the wastewater expansion and the
Mhm.
rec center. So we're accounting for them, I guess. So yeah, those aren't necessarily like that. All of that 300, it's not all like like projected sales tax. Some of it's just
I
like
see what you're saying.
bonded funds that we're applying to the rec center, for example.
Right, bigger projects brought in to that
Yeah,
mix.
yeah.
Folks, as you're joining in, feel free to send in chats for any questions you might have for the councilman. We're happy to put those forward. So when you, I've heard some issues with potentially programs being rolled back or certain staff having to be let go or departments. Can you tell us a little more about that? I think it was maybe the mobility director.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, I think there was like a $14 million kind of hole that based on like kind of projected revenues for next year,
Hmm.
all city departments kind of had to kind of chip in to figure out, okay, how are we gonna kind of close this revenue spending gap? And so as part of that, yeah, the mobility division was cut. And I think there are a couple other positions, but I think that maybe was the most prominent one. And I think like there's also like a hiring freeze, and
Hmm.
there are also like maybe positions that were listed that weren't filled that they're no longer going to try and fill. So they're coming up with savings that way. And yeah, just some programming as well.
Right. So is this your first time having a budget that has needed to take some cuts since you've been on count? And this is year three for you, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, it's third budget. Yeah, because fall of 23, we worked on 24 budget. Fall of 24, we worked on 25 budget. So yeah, Um, yeah, this is the first time that I've been involved in a budget process where there was kind of yeah, just like our financial position is a little bit weaker than it has been the past 2 years. And so yeah, there's a bit more uncertainty. And I think that like even when we were making the 2025 budget, um, we ended up not we realized kind of that softening of sales tax like about like midway through this year, I think. So
Mhm.
we kind of, I think as a city operationally had to kind of adjust on the fly already to accommodate like lower revenues coming in from sales tax.
So you're already, though, it's a bit of an adjustment on the fly, but you were kind of seeing this happening, anticipating that impact. What do you think? I mean, you don't have to expand too far out to speculate, but what do you think has been driving down? Why are we seeing? I mean, we're seeing it across the country right now, right?
Right.
With just municipalities and counties and states, everybody taking a big hit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it seems like it's really mostly macroeconomic kind of forces that are impacting city budgets. One area that the city has mentioned that's kind of affected like a certain slice of city revenue was so basically like for our lodging tax, if
Hmm.
you're paying like on a per night rate, like we collect sales lodging tax, but if you are paying like monthly, we don't collect that lodging tax. And so that, and I think they're seeing more of that happening like
Hmm.
in some of like those hotels. And so like people are paying for like months instead of like on a nightly rate. And so those types of, I guess, shifts um don't help the city's financial picture. But yeah, I mean, I think um it seems like it's mostly the macroeconomic factors. I don't think, yeah, I'm trying to think if I know anything specifically about like tourism, for example, like which is a growing part of our economy, like if that is up or down. Um, but but yeah, I think I could imagine that like as like we probably get some spillover from like international tourism,
Yeah,
like
that's
from the
that's
national
been.
parks in Moab, and so like that
Hmm.
that could like kind of soften some of our revenues too, and so
Well, we've seen a pretty big crash in tourism. I mean, like Vegas is one of the best examples,
right,
I think, has lost like 25%, maybe even greater than of just, a
right,
crash. So a lot of heavy hits.
yeah.
Question here from one of our members, Casey Hawley, saying, I'm a teacher, and when we make decisions on things, we use a rubric with different categories and points associated with each category. Is there a similar process for deciding what happens with the budget or with how the city decides to spend its money?
I would say that I know that staff kind of has a process like that, but at the city council level, um, there isn't necessarily like a rubric per se. Um, Kind of the city council sets like its strategic plan, and um, the city manager develops a budget that they believe supports kind of the goals of that strategic plan. But it's yeah, it's not maybe as um, numerical, and like we're not like evaluating like, okay, does this project meet XYZ? Like I think that that's a much more operational kind of thing.
Mm.
That I imagine like in the creation of the budget as it kind of rolls up to city council was done, but it's not something we at the council level see necessarily.
Where do you lay your priorities? If you were to place, like, if you were going to have a dollar, if the
Hmm.
city budget was a dollar, where would you, how would you like look to allocate first?
Yeah, I mean, that's so if you look at kind of the just like the dollar amounts, like what is kind of the city spending the most money on, it's labor, it's
Hmm.
people. And given that police and fire are like kind of some of the most essential core services we provide. Like those are like the biggest people departments, and so they are like a huge portion of the city budget. So I want to say it's probably on the order between those two departments and their labor. I want to say like 50%, maybe even higher than
Wow.
50% of the budget.
For fire and
So,
police, just those
yeah,
two? Okay.
yeah, and I could double check that, but
Sure.
um, yeah, it's in that ballpark.
Hmm.
And so um, yeah, and then like yeah, I mean, if you think about like a rec center with 80 million split across 2 years, so that's yeah, let's call it like another 40 million of the 300 is um, like the rec center and like other major capital projects like that can be big chunks. So I mean, I think that overall, like I do feel confident in the way the city's kind of allocating its resources. I where maybe I would kind of have a different perspective from some of council is kind of some of these longer term like um kind of decisions. Like I think we could be doing more, I guess, to set ourselves up for a stronger financial uh, future. Like
Okay.
I think there are ways we could, for example, like ways we can be growing where, like if we like, for example, if we prioritize infill over sprawl, like that's a
Hmm.
really easy way for a city to um, kind of get the most from its existing infrastructure and limit the amount of kind of new stuff we have to build to support affordable housing and growth and those types of things. So,
Well, it's a massive cost to run, sewer and
right,
electricity and, across the
water, yeah,
roads. Yeah,
roads, yeah,
that
exactly.
makes a lot of sense. What do you think? I mean, this kind of comes to your point when I was reading through the Daily Sentinel, they asked council members their priorities. You mentioned cost of living. I mean, we see
Hmm.
that again across the country and
Right.
some being successful, some not, and housing being a major one. What's going on? What's the struggle with infill right now?
Um, I think I don't know if there's a specific struggle with infill. I know we do have like an incentive program to kind of encourage infill. Um, but I did want to plug something that the city stood up is a housing affordability task force. There's
Hmm.
a couple council people on it. I'm one of them. And basically, we asked a bunch of developers like, hey, like, what are the barriers that exist to delivering lower cost housing in our community? And so they're kind of brainstorming a bunch of ideas and will come up with recommendations for council. Um, so I think there is a certain amount of either like process streamlining or um, kind of regulations that maybe are duplicative or too onerous and like not really delivering or they're too costly to implement that we could consider cutting. I obviously think like I'm not somebody who is like there should be no regulations on anything.
Right.
Like I think that that's kind of a not really a feasible position, but I do think that there are areas for improvement to um, yeah, areas to improve
Who's
where we can kind of create regulations that are protecting what we care about most about while still allowing for reasonable development that can be more affordable and that type of thing.
who is the other council member on that?
There's three actually, so it's Laurel and Cody and I.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
And it's made up of just developers, or are there other?
it's like developers, architect, like engineering firms. Is there nonprofits? Yeah, there's like maybe a nonprofit person, but like folks who kind of have tried to develop or are somehow like usually involved in like the housing space. So
Mhm.
um and I think it yeah, it'll be an interesting discussion when it does come to council because um, yeah, there are certain things where I think there is like public interest to have certain things like we could
Sidewalks.
yeah like we could eliminate sidewalks and paved roads and save a lot of money, but like would that be something that we would want to do as a community? Is that something that's like equitable?
Right.
So yeah.
People got to live here and they got
Right.
to, you know, for the
Yeah.
long term. And, you know,
Yeah.
especially we, with our demographics issues with dropping with young families, I mean, that's a
Right.
priority. It's hard to, we have a neighborhood without sidewalks and
Yep.
it's tough. It's
Yep.
definitely tough.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Well, continuing on housing, let's talk a bit about, you know, we had some sad news coming out of Homeward Bound with their weekend shelter
hmm
closing. What's going on with that? And, you know, what do you think the city can do to assist more of our unhoused population?
Yeah. So I think what's going on with that is the explanation I've heard is they're basically trying to preserve their cash for kind of when those services will be most important. I think the um, federal environment and maybe kind of the philanthropic environment is kind of tough right now, and so cash flow wise, I think it and I could see the argument like if they are concerned about that, then
Hmm.
yeah, like maybe when we're in kind of this early fall period, it won't be as essential. It's obviously not ideal. Like ideally, we would have been maybe preserving that cash flow in the summer and then
Right. Winter's
kind of
coming.
ramping up now, but um, can't can't have perfect foresight, I guess. So,
Sure.
um, but yeah, that's the explanation I've heard. As far as what the city can do, I know we have about $500,000 allocated um, towards unhoused things in the 2026 budget. Um, and then yeah, I mean, city council always has the option of like the general fund. Like um, there's a minimum reserve that we have to hold, and then we have like what is it like on the order of like 17 million above that minimum reserve.
Hmm.
So that's just like excess or yeah, excess tax revenue that we could deploy however council really sees fit. But yeah, there are decisions there, but yeah,
Right. I mean, that's a big decision. I mean, how there's always that conversation in local government of, you know, are what you're talking about with the 17 million, is that reserves, would you say right now, or
that
excess?
is I think that is excess above our minimum reserve. So there's like
Okay.
a
Gotcha.
it might be legally dictated, or I don't know if it's like a local
There is a
policy.
Tabor law
Okay.
around reserves. I think about like
Yeah.
2.5% of your budget, but I
Okay.
know the city council has their own
Okay.
yeah, like rulings or bylaws within there.
Right.
Um, when would that trigger? I mean, it's always what I always hear with that is, oh, it's a rainy day fund. How hard
Yeah.
does it have to rain to start using that rainy day fund? Where do you weigh
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a valid question. One of the more like as we've kind of discussed this topic over the years, one of the more compelling things that I've like Scott Balfour has always brought up is like how much do we save by kind of addressing the needs of some of these folks? Like these are a lot of these folks are quote unquote frequent flyers on like
Hmm.
our police department or our fire
Hmm.
department, and like could we make an investment that like addresses those folks' needs and like kind of frees up the time of our city staff in other ways. So I think the tricky thing there is like it's obviously costing staff time to address those needs, but um, it's not like a cash outlay in a sense. Like we're paying for that staff anyways.
Sure.
Instead of them responding to that kind of call, they might be responding to a different call quicker. So it's like it's not like creating new cash flow
Hmm.
by addressing those needs. But I think it's worth considering, especially when um, we are having problems with like burnout and overworked staff in like our police and fire departments. And so I think figuring out ways to kind of lighten their load um, and kind of address needs of other parts of our community, like these folks are unhoused, but they're still part of our community, and so
100%.
we can figure out ways to serve them better, I think.
Yeah, so kind of you're talking like a ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure,
Exactly.
going
Yep.
upstream on these issues. Okay.
Yep.
So let's return back to housing real quick. With
Mhm.
this committee, when are they coming up with their recommendation? Do you have a timeline on that?
It's not super firm. It just stood up maybe a month or a month and a half ago. I think they were initially targeting like having some preliminary recommendations to council in like the 6 month time frame, but it's not like super
Set in stone.
set in stone yet. It's we're gonna kind of proceed as things develop, and I think that yeah, I'm excited to see what they come up with. So
Yeah, I'll be interested. I have my opinions on what we might see, but
yeah, yeah.
we'll see what comes of it. Okay, we have a member question here. Actually, I love this question from Bobby. Thank you all for the work you do for little pay. What is the hardest thing about your work on the council?
Hmm. I think that's a great question. I think some of the hardest work, and maybe I'm putting too much into this, but kind of in this media environment that we live in with social
Mm,
media, with Facebook in particular, or
hmm.
even next door, maybe, I think you really have to have a pretty thick skin sometimes. And I think that it's really easy for people to be kind of nasty online. And um, yeah, one of the harder things that as a human, like it's like you want to have a thick skin, but obviously certain things will still affect you.
It still
So
hurts.
yeah, yeah. So I think that that's been a surprising, like something that I should have expected, but maybe didn't realize how impactful it could be sometimes. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's so true. And that's one thing we try and do on this show too, is just to remind folks that, our elected leaders are just people. And, at the same time, I want to uplift it in part to be like, go and talk to them, like
yeah,
engage, but also it's like, yeah, and a lot of stuff what you say affects them too on a human level.
right,
Um,
right.
yeah, so I appreciate
One
you
of
sharing that.
Yeah, and one of the things that the new city manager has mentioned before, which I reflect on often, is like we need to be really hard, like as a council, like we need to be really hard on issues, but like easy on people. So
Hmm.
like really focus on the issues and like try not to kind of assign intent or like ill will and like kind of assume that folks are kind of operating in good faith. And so I think that that's something that maybe gets lost in the public, and especially when it's like the attacks become more personal and less about like yeah, as an elected, you're fully open to scrutiny for kind of policy decisions
Hmm.
and those types of things, but like personal attacks can be kind of unwarranted sometimes.
Yeah, and lame.
Yeah,
Not cool.
yeah.
So let's see here. I mean, within that, I've watched some workshops over the years, and I think like there was some pretty tense council sessions. What is the mood on council right now? How are you feeling? I mean, we have pretty much a majority new, or at least no, not a majority, but close. A lot of new council
Hmm.
members, a new
Yeah,
mayor for sure.
yeah.
How is it working with a diverse group of people?
I think yeah, I think it's improving as time goes on, honestly. I think the strategic planning session was good. I do think there's kind of further discussion to be had on any, and you name whatever city issue
Hmm.
you want to talk about. But yeah, I do think that we have a like more of a ideological spectrum, I'd say, on
Right.
council now than maybe previously. And so yeah, I think issues are just taking more discussion and um, trying to figure out how to find consensus and move forward. So yeah,
Hmm.
I'm it's a different dynamic, but I wouldn't say it's bad.
Good. Well, I mean, that's great to hear. We want to see that conversation and that progress. So, um, last couple questions here. So the first one, I have a lot of respect for you in regards to how open you've been in regards to multimodal
Hmm.
and, representing the biking community in our city. What happened with Fourth and Fifth Street? I know it's like, oh,
Hmm.
I think people are gonna take a deep breath when they see this question, but what did you learn from that experience? What do you think could have gone better with the rollout and ideas for the future for our biking community to keep people safe?
Yeah, I think I think a couple things. So I think maybe communicate like so the process for Fun Fest started in like 2021, and then like the implementation of the pilot didn't really start until I guess that would have been fall of 2024.
Hmm.
And so I think there was enough time in there that like people didn't like kind of forgot, and like I think during the rollout there could have been a much more aggressive kind of communication campaign. Um, and then I think we maybe waited, and some of this was kind of dependent on like weather and like our
Hmm.
ability to actually change things on the ground. Like just like the nature of the that paint product, like you have to has to be warm enough that you can like melt this plastic onto the pavement. So, but I do think like we could have pivoted towards like a next iteration sooner. Um, so like the one that I was that the city developed, I guess earlier in 2020, like January of 2025, like had we had that design maybe on the ground in like late 2024, I think that well, it basically addressed, I'd say 95% of the concerns we heard
Hmm.
while still keeping that one lane, which
Hmm.
is like the main factor that slows speeds and increases safety. And so, um, yeah, basically kind of flip-flopped that instead of having the parking protected bike lane, the bike lane's like directly adjacent to the driving lane, but still one driving lane. And so it like would look much more familiar to um, the community and would
Hmm.
eliminate all the bollards and yeah, just be less confusing, but still much safer than what we have now. So yeah, those are the kind of main lessons I think that I take away from that whole saga.
Yeah, I mean, timing is everything in life,
Yeah,
but I do
yep,
appreciate you mentioning the communication side. I think that was the biggest surprise for me.
yep,
Was, just kind of being shocked. Oh my gosh, what is this going on?
yep,
So that's great. There's no failures except failing to learn. So
yep,
I hear we're having a town hall coming up next week. Let's
yeah,
go ahead and plug that for our little final piece here.
yeah. So Tuesday, let's see, what is the Tuesday, October 28th, I believe. We are having a city council town hall. I believe it starts at 6 p.m. and it's at the Central Library.
Okay.
And so yeah, all I think well, I think it's six of us are going to be there. So yeah, come on out. It'll be I'm not exactly sure what the format's going to be, but I think it's obviously going to be less formal than like a real city council meeting because we're not going to be conducting business, and so you'll have much more time than 3 minutes to kind of talk about issues and I think it'll be much more kind of back and forth than we typically have at like a normal council meeting. So I'm excited to do that because I think it's important to get out there and interact with folks.
Yeah, I love hearing that. All right, remember, folks, that town hall is coming next Tuesday. Be on the lookout for that. You said 6:30, is that right?
I think
Okay.
it's 6. Let me,
Six. Okay, six
yeah.
o'clock at the library. So, Jason, thank you so much. It's great having you on. We really appreciate that perspective and look forward to talking more.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a good
And
night,
actually,
everybody.
a quick
Oh,
quick
go ahead.
clarification. I think I just looked. I think it's actually 5:30.
Oh, okay.
So
Thanks for the
5:30,
clarification.
not 6. But
5:30. 5:30. And that's at the Central Library?
yeah,
Okay. All right. We'll be sure to post that on our page as well. All right, everybody, have a good night. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Special thank you to our Patreon members. We are 100% community funded, and your support goes a long way. You can become a member at patreon.com/bettertogether, and we have several options and perks, so check it out.